Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sirhan on X on this 9th of December 2025. As I come to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America, on a decent day over here in Cincinnati. Not a quarter earlier, but it's warmed up. But I got this thing cooking tonight. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day today. Legendary Night segment. It's a one-topic show for a significant event for one of the more immortal forces in all walks of pop culture who ascended to immortality at the highest level. And how we got to that point was maybe at one point you thought it was the end, but maybe in hindsight, it was only the beginning. The night was 70 years ago at Chicago Stadium in Chicago, Illinois, and it was KOd Bobo Olson defending his undisputed middleweight championship against none other than Walker Smith Jr., a.k.a. Sugar Ray Robinson. This was the third of their four-fight trilogy, and this came at a time where it really looked like it was the end for Sugar Ray Robinson. And we talk about this, going into this particular fight, the question was going in, did he still have it? I'll get to that part here in a minute. I'm going to touch on their careers before, during, and after, and also talk about the path of greatness for Sugar Ray Robinson that nobody in the fight community respects or appreciates. We'll talk about the champion KOd Bobo Olson, coming out of Lancaster, California. One an interesting story when we talk about KOd Olson. One of the standouts in the from the state of California, multiple world champion, as I said. He basically was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, to a Portuguese mother and a Swedish father. Interesting cultural dialect. And we think about that, that's why he was nicknamed the Hawaiian Swede, given the multi-international background that he had. He talked about getting like a lot of the fighters, before, during, and after his time, got into the fight game after taking up fights in the streets. And basically, it was training boxers who were stationed in Hawaii during World War II, and we know what that was all about. And he starts some of his earlier fights in the native Kalihi, Hawaii, where his fight was discovered. Eventually moved to San Francisco to pursue his career, even though he was only at a young age. Managed to win his first 13 fights, 10 by knockout, and basically was climbing up the ranks real quickly. And then all of a sudden, in his 16th pro fight, he fought an individual named Wayne Powell to become the USA Hawaii middleweight champ, one of the regional titles in the state of Hawaii at the time, and managed to start to climb up the ranks rather slowly, fought frequently. You talk about once every 2 to 3 months, which is not done today. And that was a common practice way back in the day when you talk about what a guy like Bobo Olson did. I mean, split a series with a fellow Hawaiian named George Duke, got a tough and lost the title on points to Boyd Brooks, but managed to continue to pluck along until he got to his 46th professional fight, and it was the first of his 4-fight series with Sugar Ray Robinson for the Pennsylvania State Middleweight Championship. And in this fight, he gave a good account of himself, but we know Sugar Ray Robinson just gradually wore him down and stopped him in the 12th round. Looked like he wasn't going to get to anything higher than that, but he kept plucking along. And the next thing you know, within 2 years of the first fight with Ray Robinson, he got the second fight, and this came after solid wins over fighters like Dave Sands, Woody Harper, and Tommy Harrison to get the top spot to fight Robinson for the middleweight title. This is the second of their fights in 1952. And that fight, he gave Ray Robinson all he can handle, made Ray Robinson have to dig deep to become, to retain his middleweight title, being Ray Robinson. But Bobo Olson started becoming a household name across the states. And after that fight, he continued to pluck along. And in the middle of all of this, as all this was going on, we talk about Sugar Ray Robinson and Bobo Olson. We trace back a bit after the second fight with Bobo Olson and Sugar Ray Robinson that took place in 1952. It was shortly thereafter that fight. Robinson had a title defense against Rocky Graziano, and then he moves up to light heavyweight to challenge Joey Maxim for the light heavyweight championship, in a fight where he had the Maxim fight completely under control, just doing anything and everything he wanted to, but couldn't come out for the 14th round because of excessive heat exhaustion. And at that point, after that took place, Ray Robinson was forced to vacate the title because he moved up to light heavyweight. And then we had a showdown between Randy Turpin and Bobo Olson for the vacant middleweight championship. And it was a unanimous decision win for Bobo Olson to finally get over the pedestal to become the undisputed middleweight champion at that time. Made a couple respected successful defenses, including a good give and take fight with a standout Kid Gavilan, where he escaped with a majority decision win to retain the title, and made another title defense against Rocky Castellini a year later. But while Bobo Olson was starting to trend upward a little bit, it looked like Ray Robinson was starting to hit the other direction, and now doubt started to creep in when you talk about Sugar Ray Robinson. Because it was 2 fights after this, after he lost to Joey Maxim, he fights an unheralded fighter named Ralph Tiger Jones and loses a 10-round unanimous decision. And at that fight, he looked so bad, people were calling for him to retire. And for a minute, it looked like he was, because he announced it temporarily in early 1955. But out of nowhere, shortly thereafter, he couldn't stand put. So he came back and had 4 consecutive wins over less than stellar opposition, although one was against Rocky Castellini to get the title shot, which I'm about to talk about here, that took place 70 years ago tonight at the Chicago Stadium in Chicago, Illinois. And it was the third of the 4-fight series between Sugar Ray Robinson and Carl Bobo Olson. One interesting tidbit about this fight is people were doubting Sugar Ray Robinson so much that Bobo Olson was actually pegged as much as a 3.5 to 1 favorite, especially after we talked about what he did to Randy Turpin to win the title. And now people thought Robinson was trending in the opposite direction. And most people thought Olson was going to do it. Remember, in their second fight, he pushed Robinson to the limits. Sugar Ray Robinson had to dig deep. But we talk about what took place on this night 70 years ago. It's one of the things we see in the sport all the time. You write somebody off, you can only write them off for so much. And we have the natural pure talent and the pure greatness of what Sugar Ray Robinson possessed. And Sugar Ray Robinson possessed a lot of greatness, which I'm going to talk about here at the end. Writing him off was probably the worst thing you could probably do, because he was fighting a guy he already beat twice. 2, he basically, being Ray Robinson, was preparing for this moment after losing to Tiger Jones and started to rebuild himself a little bit, started to gain some confidence. And what happened on this night was probably another exhibit of Sugar Ray Robinson's march to immortality against one of the tough, durable, strong fighters. We talk about Carl Bobo Olson. We talk about the style of Bobo Olson. One of the pure guys that likes to mix it up, comes forward, takes it to you, and that's how he always fought, and that's how he had his wins. And we talk about, before going to this particular fight, the question was, did Ray Robinson have it in him? And can Carl Bobo Olson, who pushed Ray Robinson to the limit in the second of their 4-fight series, get over the hump? Remember, he was pegged as a 3 to 1 favorite. But the real story of this fight was essentially, simply put, after filling out first round, where Robinson tried to feel himself, Olson tried to settle in the second round, Sugar Ray Robinson just showed why, once again, he's a genuine all-time great and probably had the distinction of the greatest pound for pound ever. I'll touch on that in the end. He started to utilize the ring, as he always does, the natural gifts that he was possessed. And we talk about all the time. one of the most naturally gifted fighters to ever step foot in the squared circle in the boxing ring. And that's what Ray Robinson was. Started to use his jab, utilize the ring, counter right hands, combinations, kept him on the Olson on the outside, not letting Olson get inside, which is what Olson was successful in the second of their 4-fight series. But a subtle mistake by Carl Olson when he tried to get closer to Ray Robinson, almost toward the end of the second round, a slight step back and a two-punch combination, finishing off with a left hook, hurt Olson, and then another left hook, hurt Olson a second time, and barely missing an uppercut was Ray Robinson. And then another left hook lands, and Bobo Olson is down, and he is basically down on the laying down on the canvas, trying to beat the count. But as he was getting up, he was hurt, and basically the fight was over. And another round of brilliance when you talk about the path to immortality and just having the distinction of the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in the world of all time. Sugar Ray Robinson showed yet another exhibit of this when he just dusted off a tough, durable Carl Olson in less than 2 rounds to become the world undisputed middleweight champion for the 3rd time in his career. And Sugar Ray Robinson called this probably one of his more gratifying moments, just simply because he was overcome with emotions. And he got a lot of abuse from everybody affiliated with the boxing intelligentsia, because after he lost to Ralph Tiger Jones, many people thought it was the end, and they were calling for him to retire. Ray Robinson, of course, had other ideas. That's why Sugar Ray Robinson has the distinction of what he has, the greatest pound-for-pound fighter of all time. And basically, he knew if he got a guy like Bobo Olson in the ring, stylistically, he was going to get him. And that's what happened here. He didn't let Bobo Olson get going like Olson did in this previous 2 fights where Olson had his moments. This time, Ray Robinson went to what made him great, the natural gifts, the poetry in motion stylist that made him probably the most skilled fighter to ever step foot in that ring. And we talk about natural born gifts. Sugar Ray Robinson was it. And the footage was there of what took place on this night 70 years ago in Chicago, Illinois. And the fact he did this as basically technically a 3-1 underdog against a Carl Olson who gained momentum after losing the second Ray Robinson fight, where, if you want to call it this, it was a good loss because Olson held his own. But we know Sugar Ray Robinson came into this 3rd fight with other ideas. Road was he felt like the road was out to get him, and he basically, after losing to Ralph Tiger Jones, what he called the ghost that haunted him, Ray Robinson basically exorcised that demon when he just starched Bobo Olson with those 2 left hooks that pushed Olson down and out for the count. And this fight was basically over before it started. Maybe you can see it in hindsight, because when they say styles make fights, anybody that fights Sugar Ray Robinson and the style he had in that ring at that time, and we're talking the 1950s, they say styles make fights. You are never going to outstyle Sugar Ray Robinson, no matter how hard you try. You're going to try to rough it up with him. But that's what Carl Olson tried to do in their second fight, and he was looking to do that in this fight. But Ray Robinson used the years of experience, the years of craft, the God-gifted skills that he was brought to the game, maximized it all, and kept the tough, durable Carl Olson at bay until he put him down and out for the count in the second round. And that was where Ray Robinson began his path to immortality. You can probably say it was on this night. It's probably one of the better ones of his career through his eyes, simply because people was ready to write him off, especially after losing to Tiger Jones. And of course, who could forget 2 fights before against Joey Maxim when he lost. But remind you, the only reason why he lost to Joey Maxson was because of heat exhaustion. He didn't have much when he lost to Ralph Tiger Jones, and that was it. He bounced back, got a nice winning streak going, gained some confidence, and knowing that Bobo Olson had his championship, and after beating him twice, he knew what he was getting himself into, and that's exactly what happened 70 years ago tonight in Chicago, Illinois. Just as one of his standout performances maybe ever, just naturally gifted, and we don't say this much about fighters, maybe ever before, during, or after him. Few, if any, but naturally gifted, naturally talented. You know, of course, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but many of the deep hardcore historians from that time to now can tell you, when you talk about the most beautiful fighter to ever lace the gloves up in the fight game, and we've had tons of them. None tops the beauty, the elegance of what Sugar Ray Robinson brought into the ring. He showed it many, many times, but you could probably say his most gratifying and satisfying hour took place 70 years ago tonight at Chicago Stadium, when he fought and beat Carl Bobo Olson, one of the tough, durable fighters, and just wasted him in 2 rounds to become the undisputed world middleweight champion for the 3rd time in his career. The 3rd of 5 he won in that weight class. Sugar Ray Robinson, we can coin the phrase "do it all." He was do it all. I mean, he could rough you up if he wanted to. That's how he beat Olson in the 2nd fight. And of course, he did, of course, you can forget the St. Valentine's Day massacre, where he just obliterated, beat down, and bum rushed Jake LaMotta in that wild series. And we know the Robinson-LaMotta rivalry, how that was. Sugar Ray Robinson was just a thing of beauty, natural beauty, and the career accolades that he has through the roof. Nobody's going to touch it. I mean, let me remind you some of Sugar Ray Robinson, what he was at one point in his career. I mean, I want to go back a few fights. This is going to his title loss to Randy Turpin. Going to the loss to Randy Turpin, he was 129, 1-2. 129 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws. Of course, the loss brought him to 2 losses at that point. That should tell you right there what Sugar Ray Robinson was made of. And you're going to say who's who? Go ahead, have at it. I mean, I can throw this resume out here right now, and I'll do it. Especially for all the Mike Tyson blowhards who think he's in that same conversation. I mean, Jake LaMotta. I mean, he even beat Henry Armstrong. It was considered a passing of the torch because Armstrong had the distinction of the greatest fighter of pound for pound of all time. So Robinson beat him that day, and even Henry Armstrong says, "At my best, I can't even beat this guy." And he talk winning the welterweight championship from Tommy Bell. Do some research on Tommy Bell, a solid fighter. Beating Jimmy Doyle. Of course, the unfortunate thing with Doyle dying after the fight from post-fight injuries, another story, but he was a solid fighter. And who can forget his all-style technical fight with Kid Gavilan. And if you want a purist of pure style, watch that fight, because both guys were the epitome of the sweet science. We talk about Sugar Ray Robinson and Kid Gavilan. And it was a stylistic fight, and Sugar Ray Robinson just won that one rather convincingly. And of course, that was his run as a welterweight, one-time welterweight champ, maybe the distinction of the greatest welterweight ever. You know, about close to him was the other Sugar Ray Leonard. So we talk about his run at middleweight, and that's where the fun begins. I mean, his first world middleweight championship, we think about it, was, of course, Jake LaMotta. We know the story of that series. Lost the title to Turpin, as I said, beat Bobo Olson, regained it from Turpin on a knockout, beat Bobo Olson in the second of that 4-fight series. Of course, beat the standout, tough and gritty Rocky Graziano, gave him a boxing lesson, and that wasn't even close. Wiped him out in 3 rounds. And of course, the 2-fight series with Gene Fullmer, the second fight where he regained the title, was deemed as the left hook of perfection. If you can find the footage, pull it up, because that's how you knock a fighter out with left hook senseless, and that's what Ray Robinson did to Gene Fullmer. Eventually, lost a tough fight to 2 close decisions to Paul Pender, which second fight many thought Robinson should have been given the nod. Granted, odd circumstances, but that's boxing. Of course, came back to split another series with Gene Fullmer. And then, of course, went on to have many successful fights in the middleweight and welterweight divisions. We can coin everything as boxing immortality in our sport because there's a lot of fighters that fit that mold. But Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't always will be the prototype. And his legacy is so far in the sky, the second best fighter of all time, which is Muhammad Ali, can't even see it. I mean, Muhammad Ali said this perfectly when we talk about the legacy of Ray Robinson. I am the greatest, but we talk about pound for pound greatest, Sugar Ray Robinson. There's nothing more to it. And I'm going to point to about 15 to 20 examples of what he did during his time as the undisputed champ at both middleweight and welterweight. From all the fights he had, Jake LaMotta, Randy Turpin, Gene Fullmer, of course, Bobo Olson, among others, to tell you where he belongs. But you need to dig up the real footage to see what the beauty and the elegance and the grace that Sugar Ray Robinson embraced the fight game with. And it was a thing of beauty. Everybody says this guy was going to challenge him. This guy was going to challenge him. There was never a serious challenger to Ray Robinson's distinction. I mean, as great as Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis were, they weren't going to touch him. And even as great as guys like Roberto Duran, Ray Leonard, among others, they couldn't touch him. That tells you why Ray Robinson had the legit distinction of the greatest pound-for-pound fighter of all time. And we talk about what he did against the odds on this night 70 years ago in Chicago, Illinois, to basically come out of the ashes after losing 2 of 3 to Joey Maxim and Ralph Tiger Jones, and basically just fighting to just keep his confidence and getting basically the equivalent of a last shot at a world title. Sugar Ray Robinson took advantage of it. That should tell you why he has the distinction of what he has. And that's why there'll never be another Sugar Ray Robinson. He came, he saw, he conquered, and he's gone. And his legacy, forever untouched. Everyone wants to say this guy challenged it, that guy challenged it. There was no challenger to Sugar Ray Robinson, no matter how hard you try. I mean, you can point up highlight reels, but highlight reels from guys who was involved in the steroid thing in 2001 in a fight against Richard Hall. We knew who that guy was. He never was in Sugar Ray Robinson's league. No way. And the reason being, Sugar Ray Robinson just did everything naturally. That's the difference. Sugar Ray Robinson was a natural at every single little thing. And when you talk about check the boxes, you can put about 200 boxes of what you want out of a boxer. Sugar Ray Robinson checked all 200 and checked them all with exclamation points. That's what made him one of the premier greats of that time and the number one fighter, pound for pound, in boxing history, far and away to where nobody's ever going to touch him. I'll touch on more on him in a minute. Now to Bobo Olson. A solid career. Regional titles. I mentioned beat Randy Turpin to win this title. Fought Ray Robinson 4 times. A couple of the fights he gave Robinson all he can handle. But after this fight, he would have another shot at Ray Robinson, and he was knocked out in 4 rounds, excuse me, in his last shot at a world title. Also in there, like Sugar Ray Robinson, Olson took a chance to become the light heavyweight champ, was just wiped out in 3 rounds by the great Archie Moore. But after the Moore and the Robinson losses, and a nondescript loss to a fighter named Pat McMurray, where he was wiped out in 2 rounds, he did get some solid wins, but never got to that level ever again. But still a very gritty, tough, good fighter who was good enough to win an undisputed championship from a standout like Randy Turpin. And in 2 of the 4 fights against Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest pound for pound of all time, gave him everything he could handle and then some. That's what made Bobo Olson as a tough fighter, tough out for anyone in any era, because he came to fight. It's just this night, he ran into someone who's so far up in the sky, Nobody is ever going to touch him. But that's where the career of Bobo Olson was. So, and basically, the end was this fight with Ray Robinson, the third one. A year later, they had the fourth one. Same thing there. That fight was over. But at that point, after that, he basically was so hit and miss. The only real fight he had at that point down the line was future light heavyweight champ Jose Torres, who beat him convincingly. But that was it. But KOd Bobo Olson was a very, very good fighter. I mean, you don't win an undisputed middleweight title against Randy Turpin just by being nobody. He was a sound fighter, very gritty, very tough. Gave a lot of fighters all they can handle, especially when we talk about his second fight with Ray Robinson. But on this night, it belonged to Ray Robinson and Ray Robinson only. And we know why. Just a stand-up fighter was KOd Bobo Olson. Now we trace back to Ray Robinson, how the path to immortality started to the end. It's simple. Anybody that fought him, he beat him. Anybody that fought him, he beat him. And that's how it is always going to be, like it or not. As I said, when you talk about his ability, he did it all. I mean, the style, the movement, the ring generalship, the defense, natural quickness, not fabricated quickness by a certain fighter from Pensacola, Florida. I mean, genuine quickness, genuine ability to slip, move, just subtle things. And because he prolonged it for so long the way he did, that's why he's head and shoulders amongst everybody else in boxing history. And because he was such a natural and such a poetry in motion and natural beauty for the eye of the beholder among the fight intelligentsia, who just admired and just were just eye-opened and jaw-dropped by what this guy did. That tells you the legacy and what Sugar Ray Robinson did. And we talk about his stature. I distinguish him as the greatest pound-for-pound fighter of all time. Greatest of all time, both at welterweight and middleweight. Some terrific fights along the way. Of course, the many fights he had with Jake LaMotta. The capper, of course, was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where after a lot of weird verbiage both ways, Robinson just gave LaMotta one of the more one-sided beatings you could ever give anyone. And Ray Robinson was also a guy you did not want to piss off. Jake LaMotta did, and a hard price was paid, and that's why things happened the way it did for him. And that's how Ray Robinson stood out. Among some of the other ones, I'm going to scroll this here. We talk about this one, welterweight. We went up to middleweight after getting the knockout of LaMotta, and that's where everything starts to establish itself. I mean, Rocky Graziano and Randy Turpin, two standouts. Of course, Turpin beat Robinson in what is considered the greatest upset for British boxing and maybe British boxing history. But the crazy thing about that fight was not just the fact that Ray Robinson lost it on points. He won an immediate rematch and got it 2 months later. Do we see that anymore in the sport? No. He loses to Randy Turpin, gets a rematch 2 months later, goes into the backyard and just basically brings it over to the States and wallops Randy Turpin to regain the middleweight championship. And then, of course, follows up with the standout win over the tough, durable Rocky Graziano, where Graziano was just out of his league. And we know about Graziano's trilogy with Tony Zale, probably one of the 10 greatest face-first trilogies in boxing history. That should tell you why this guy's head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, his accolades could probably stuff the national debt. That's how great he was. Poetry in motion, natural beauty. We talk about the 4 elements of judging a fight: clean, effective punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, and defense. Sugar Ray Robinson mastered all 4 throughout his entire career. And we think about the final record he had before he hung it up of 174, 119, and 6 with 2 non-contests in there. That's all you need to know. I mean, and the thing is, he didn't cherry pick his opponents. He essentially said, next man up. You think you can beat me? Bring it. And anyone who beat him, he basically said, I want you again. And that's what happened. And what happened 70 years ago tonight, after he was close to being written off because of tougher than expected loss to a fighter named Ralph Tiger Jones 2 fights after he lost to Joey Maxim, and everybody's calling for his head. Ray Robinson said, "Give me Bobo Olson in the ring. I want one more shot at the world title." He got it and just put the perfect left hooks to floor Bobo Olson down and out for the count. And what he calls, at that point, one of the more satisfying wins of his career, said it felt good to be champion again. And when you can do it, when everybody's out against you, it makes it that much sweeter. That's essentially why Sugar Ray Robinson went over Bobo Olson in the third of their 4-fight series 70 years ago tonight stands out to him. And he said at the end, it felt good to be champion again. And it was something I wanted to be again. He just couldn't put it into words simply because he knew the end was near to some of the boxing intelligentsia, but he proved the doubters wrong. And he basically just delivered the goods to beat Carl Bobo Olson. I can go on and on about why this guy's path to immortality was one of a kind. And I encourage everyone, just pull up the footage of this guy. I mean, it's not nothing. It's not fabricated. You can't duplicate it because he was a first and he was a natural. That's what made him the stand-up that he was, the greatest fighter pound for pound of all time, at a distinction that he will forever wear till the world ceases to exist. Because there's no other way to describe it, no other way to explain it as to why Sugar Ray Robinson wore the distinction. You can bust out your O's, you can bust out your fake championships, you can bust out all of the stuff you want. Doesn't mean anything, because what this guy did for his time, when they say you were head and shoulders above your time, he was just above his shoulders above his time. He was so far head and shoulders above his time, he made sure he stayed a head and shoulders above everybody all time. And that's why Sugar Ray Robinson was and always will be the real GOAT. You can call anybody a GOAT all you want. It doesn't matter. There's only one true, genuine GOAT. And it's a fella by the name of Walker Smith Jr., a.k.a. Sugar Ray Robinson. And 70 years ago tonight, at Chicago Stadium in Chicago, Illinois, as a 3-1 underdog who was basically had everything written off against him after losing a stretch of 2 of 3 to Joey Maxim and Ralph Tiger Jones. He rose to the top again, continued his path toward immortality when he just put on a boxing clinic and then turned it up and put down Bobo Olson for the count to win the undisputed world middleweight championship for the 3rd time. And all of these wannabes, because that's everybody is these days, is a wannabe compared to him. You can say all you want about winning belts. You say all you want about the word undisputed, because anybody can go undisputed today in the politically incorrect era. But at a time when undisputed meant something in the one belt era, where if you had one belt, you had it all. Sugar Ray Robinson did it multiple times. And because he did it multiple times at the highest level, fighting the highest opposition at their highest level, in some cases almost dusting them off effortlessly, like he did to Olson and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre against Jake LaMotta. That's why he'll always forever be head and shoulders above everybody else. You can say it if anybody's a GOAT. You can say it. Doesn't matter. But because we throw that word too loosely in the fight game and in the sports world. I get it. But there's one genuine one that's head and shoulders above everybody else. And no matter how hard you guys try to do it, no one's going to be in that conversation ever. I'll tell you this. I got put together my top 5 pound for pound list today. I put all their accomplishments together. Collectively, they're not even in Ray Robinson's league. No matter how hard I try. I can try to circumvent everything. I can try to nitpick everything. I can try to do anything I want to try and think those 5 guys belong in the same conversation as Ray Robinson, but I would fail miserably because that's how so great Ray Robinson was. And Bobo Olson was a damn good fighter, as I said before. Very good. And we know about the second fight where he gave Robinson more than he can handle. But that's what happened 70 years ago tonight was one of the many exhibits and many as to why Sugar Ray Robinson has the rightful, honorable distinction that nobody else has or deserves. The greatest fighter pound for pound of all time. He rightfully earned it. He rightfully deserved it. And there's no fighter before, during, or after that came or could come remotely close to that distinction, because Robinson was a natural. He did it the right way. Just dissect it all you want. It doesn't matter. I mean, fighters today can dissect it all they want. It doesn't matter. It's that guy will always be forever the GOAT, no matter how hard you try. I mean, if you want to waste your breath and try it, have at it. I mean, that's what you guys have your platforms for. Make sure you have a leg to stand on, because you're going to look like a fool otherwise, because no way I put anybody over him. I mean, some middleweight who won a heavyweight title in 2003, people thought he was in that conversation. All he did was beat a fake heavyweight champion. Doesn't mean he's worthy of that distinction. Because any fighter who does anything like that doesn't mean he's worthy of it. Sugar Ray Robinson did it not just once, multiple times over at the highest level. Dissect it all you want. It doesn't matter. I mean, skill, will. I mean, a great chin. I mean, it was for as many times he fought, he wasn't knocked down over that much or hardly hurt. Think about it. That's how great Sugar Ray Robinson was. And that's why he'll forever have the distinction. You can try all you want. I don't care. Try all you want. I mean, you can come at me with it if you want. I don't care. I'm going to tell it like it is. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, laces the boots of Sugar Ray Robinson. I said, put the top 5, 6, or 7 fighters pound for pound today. Put them collectively. You think they match that? Nice try. Because Ray Robinson, unlike a lot of fighters today or after Ray Robinson, there's holes that you can see that basically just ruin your argument. I mean, there's holes that you can see that just ruin your argument. Ray Robinson has no holes. Anything he had, that hole he had a chance to cover up, he covered it up and did it with exclamation points. And that's why the path to immortality for him will always be the one that will forever be the gold standard. So try all you want. And the perfect case of it, 70 years ago tonight, I guess a tough fighter named the Hawaiian Swede, KOd Bobo Olson, one of the tougher fighters in a solid amateur career and a decent pro career himself, who gave Ray Robinson all he can handle fight in the second of their 4-fight series. But when he had to defend his title against Ray Robinson 70 years ago tonight in Chicago, Illinois, he became another victim of the greatness, the beauty, and the elegance, and the poetry and motion of the premier fighter to ever step foot in the boxing ring, Sugar Ray Robinson. And that's why he stands out head and shoulders above everybody else. I said, you try it all you want, but you guys are so easy to shoot down, because this guy did it all, and did it all with exclamation points all over the place, and left no doubt. And I'll conclude by saying this, because everybody likes to have their own Mount Rushmore. If you have a Mount Rushmore and I don't see Sugar Ray Robinson on it, I encourage you to go get checked for CTE and come back to me for the results. Because you're a bona fide moron if you don't think Sugar Ray Robinson is Mount Rushmore worthy. And I'm taking the high road calling you a moron. Because he did it all. I said my Mount Rushmore wasn't, always will be Sugar Ray Robinson. I just talked about him. Of course, the greatest, Muhammad Ali. We know the story with that. Joe Louis, 12 years, 25 successful title defenses. Another record's not going to be broken. And Hammerin' Hank Henry Armstrong, undisputed champion in 3 weight classes simultaneously, from featherweight to welterweight to lightweight. No one's going to do that ever again. And we're not talking about like paper championships like a certain guy from Omaha, Nebraska has. We're talking legit, undisputed lineal championships, 3 times simultaneously, going from down to up to down, and simultaneous. And those 4 guys I mentioned did things that nobody in the fight game is going to see, touch, or even imagine. Dream about it all you want. Dream about it all you want. It's not going to matter. Those 4 guys set the gold standard for life. Those 4 guys set the gold standard that's almost unreachable. And when their careers ended, they will forever have untouchable and unbreakable records of all kinds. That's why Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, and Henry Armstrong wasn't always will be the gold standard of boxing Mount Rushmores. Some other guys might be in that conversation, but those 4 stand out due to untouchable, unbreakable records and a status of immortality that'll never be touched. May God rest the souls of all 4 of them. And it was 70 years ago tonight, over in Chicago, Illinois, that Sugar Ray Robinson made another stamp toward his march to immortality when he beat the tough and durable Bobo Olson by a 2nd-round knockout to become the world middleweight champ for a 3rd time, and basically put a stamp as the greatest pound for pound of all time. The 3rd of that 4-fight series where Olson, and a couple of fights, gave him all he could handle, but Sugar Ray Robinson showed another display of why he's the greatest. No one's going to touch him. No one even came close. And on that note, that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I will be back tomorrow night. If you missed this show or any of the other shows I've had in the past, always listen to them on the Apple Podcasts and the iHeartRadio apps. Also, the Spotify app, if you want to watch the video version of it, with my full display over here. And as always, as I tell this to everyone, make self-care your number 1 priority in all walks of life. Always take care of yourself. Respect other people's boundaries. And don't let anyone step on your boundaries. You do all those 3 things, all the good things will come your way. Always take care of you first, respect others' boundaries, and don't let anyone step on yours. And on that note, have a good rest of the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and I will see you tomorrow.